So yeah, so let's start talking about branding a little bit, because I know for you, Alexander, like I've been just amazed by the quality, the level of branding that you've been able to do, where you like literally have this like cult of people who have your logo tattooed on them. You've got it's not just that you have a lot of followers. You do have a lot of followers on social media, but like these people are like, it's like they're in the cult of you, like they're so bought in. And so that's something I was hoping you could kind of touch on a little bit, and share some of the ways that you've kind of been able to do that. So I don't know, maybe we can start with the tattoos. How many people have your logo tattooed on them?
I actually don't know the exact number anymore, but it's like a good amount, like across the world, you know, like in like multiple countries and stuff. Yeah.
That's crazy.
There was a particular period when it was kind of like pretty much kind of like in its own box, kind of trending, and like loads and loads of people got it in like a really short space of time. It's like a little slower now because I haven't been pushing it, but occasionally you get the other.
That's hilarious. Yeah, you know, the tattoos I've been slowing down a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you something about that. I'll tell you something, like, it sounds nuts really, but I actually so you know, like you develop the skill, like a salesman develops the skill of being able to like generate money. They're like, right, I need to make some money. I'm going to go do the thing that makes money. I'm going to go hustle. Right. Well, I feel like I've kind of gotten the tattoo thing. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm like manipulating people, because it's not like that. But like, if I want more tattoos, I can go get more tattoos for my brand. You know, like I can be like, I want a bunch more people to get the tattoos this week, and I can go push that button, and it'll happen.
Got you. So yeah, that's insane. But so let's start giving some producers some like practical stuff. So like when you started thinking about your brand and how you wanted to shape that and think about that, what are some of the things that you had in mind, or what do you even, maybe even going broader, like what do you even think branding is, or how do you think about branding? How would you define that?
So one thing that I always say to both producers and artists about branding is it has to be able to be very briefly kind of summed up in a short sentence when someone asks you, right? But it's not even when someone asks you, it's when like you got to think of how someone else would describe you to their friend, right? So for me, it's like, oh yeah, he's that like kind of like dark trap guy. He's that spooky trap guy with a face tat. Like it's like it's a brief summary of how someone can instantly communicate what you are to someone else. And the other thing about branding as well, which I think is super, super important, is it has to polarize instantly, generally. Like there are other cases where that's not true, but usually the factor is that that person has a massive budget. Like if you're like Ariana Grande, second time I've mentioned her in this podcast, like you can kind of get away with being sort of like, with not being crazy one way or the other. She's just like a really great singer, and she's pretty, and she has great songs. And I mean, you can still describe like she's a kind of funky sound.
Nuance,
yeah, there's still nuance to the brand.
Nuance to the look.
But it's not like polarized. Whereas I think when you're developing something from zero online, someone needs to go onto like your Instagram or your Facebook or your site and just be like instantly yes or no. Right? They have to be able to be like, I love this or I hate this, because anywhere in between, they just won't even stay on the page.
I think that's massive, you know, even musically as well. If you do something that's very mainstream and very bland in terms of anything, like it has to have that mainstream budget.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you do something polarizing, then you're getting the people who dig that.
Yeah.
Like you're the source of that.
And I actually feel like now I'm at a point where I'm slightly less polarized than I used to be, because I have more reach and I have more budget and stuff. Like I can explore the nuances of my own brand more. But when I started out, I was just like, I'm this, this, and this, and everything I did pointed to it.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Like everything I said online, every image I posted, it was very, very calculated. It was not like, it was never like, haha, in the studio. It was never that. It was like, does this make sense? And I would actually advise, and I think it's even more so as a producer. Well, no, it's not more so as a producer, but you'll get more immediate money from doing it right as a producer and as an artist.
Right.
Like as an artist, you have to do it right for a while, and then like maybe your single lands or blows up or whatever. As a producer, if you do this right, by the end of the week, you can make money.
Yeah, for sure.
If you do it right and put it in front of the right client, and that's the other thing as well, by polarizing like that, you do have a more niche audience. That Brandon Carter thing you were talking about before, about how he niches it down.
Yeah. So his thing is like, so you have a niche and a sub niche. So if you say I'm a producer, I make everything. Right. No one cares. If you say
like a million of them.
Yeah. That's everyone.
Now you're competing with every other producer on the planet. You're not going to win.
You're not specifically catering to anyone because you're trying to cater to everyone. So, all right, if you say, okay, I'm a trap producer. All right, now you've got a niche, but it's still too big, much too big. Now, if like, for example, LX, right, I'm a dark and spooky trap producer. So you've got a niche, you've got sub niche. Okay, now there's this band of people who want it spooky, but they want it trap. And you're the guy. There's not millions of dark, spooky trap producers.
And you know, the other thing about that as well, as producers and musicians, we're in a kind of weird little like loophole in this, because not everything you have to make even has to be that dark, right? It's like, but because like people listen. Okay, so it's like the best way to describe it is like keywords. They listen for like musical keywords. So if you put your beat on and it's like a happy pop beat, but it has this like one like bloop, 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 like this like spooky like reverbed like bell sound on it, it still processes as being kind of spooky, so it's still in brand. So one of the things that I did really early on was I kind of like looked for how I could create like musical signatures and have these particular elements or sound, or even just like a vibe or a feeling across all of my beats. So I can make a broad variety of different types of beats, but because they all have these signature nuances, these signature like signposts, like the signposts, like this is spooky, this is dark, this is hard, this is just, you know, like these elements, and now it fits in the brand.
Well, I mean, I guess that's like where it is actually art that we're like creating. Like, I guess there is like a large element of it that is like very subtle, nuanced kind of things that are actually a big part of the brand. Like, I don't know if this is the correct term, but I always refer to it as unique identifiers. And it can be tiny things, like, or it can be big things, but you hear a couple of them and you're like, right, I know who it is. Yeah. I know who made this. Like, even without seeing anything, you're like, I know who this is.
Just for a quick reference, so people watching understand what that could be. One of mine is it's a sample of a punch bag being hit with a stick, right? And I use it to accent like when the beat drops. And I've never really heard anyone else use that. But I use it on almost every single beat. And I've literally had artists be like, I always know when it's your beat because I hear that. Like, I hear that, like, sound.
Right. So, okay, so there's like a lot of good stuff there. I just want to make sure I'm processing it and everybody else is processing it. So from the start, it's niching down and saying, okay, I'm not going to be super broad. I'm not going to be a producer who makes beats, or my message. Actually, we didn't even start with beats, but we got there.
Yeah.
We started with what's your story, what's your message, right? And getting clear about that, and niching down on that and saying, oh, I'm not just a dude or whatever, but this is what I believe in, and what I believe in and my message is polarizing, meaning some of you guys are going to hate this, but some of you guys are going to love this, and that's how I'm going to win, because I'm going to get those ones that love this, because if it's too neutral, nobody's going to be that interested, right? So that's kind of the first step.
Yeah.
And then from there, now, if I understand correctly, what you're talking about is now taking that same concept of like, okay, here's my niche, here's my polarizing message and story. Now, how can I integrate that into the actual music I'm creating?
Right.
Now we're starting to sort of build a bigger picture.
And so that you don't feel like you've locked your creativity into a box, because people get worried. They're like, oh, I don't want to just make that sound. Well, you don't have to. It just still has to sound like you. And the things that make it you have to be aligned with your brand values. It all has to make sense.
I mean,
so how would you like, so, okay, let's say somebody's a new producer or newish, or they haven't thought too much about branding yet. How do you decide, what does that even mean? Like, how do you decide what your story is, or how to be polarizing, or what to be polarizing about, or what your message is, or, you know, anything like that?
Okay. So So one of the big things I always say is the elements of your brand have to be on some level reflections of you, of elements of you. Like, it doesn't have to, like, I don't want people to get too hung up on this idea of it has to be authentically me and like spend like 6 weeks being like, who am I, you know, to try and find this brand, because that's all stalling and it's all bullshit and it's all excuses. Like, anyone who's like, I'm waiting for the right time to start the product, just like go home, like get a job, right? Like, like you have to actually make a decision, make a move, act on it. So what I'd probably recommend you doing is, I mean, you can write it down, but if you write it down, sometimes it can become kind of like, it starts to feel a little bit weird, like you're trying to like simplify yourself too much. So just like as you go about your fucking life and like listen to music, watch movies, like interact with your friends, just kind of like start processing your own behavior and like what you value and like what you like, and like what things really add up to who I am. But then at the same time, you have to pick elements that you know other people will respond to. Like, you can't build a brand as a producer around something so like bizarre and unrelatable that no one's gonna like identify with it. You know, there has to be some kind of identification with it. And in some ways, it's kind of good to be somewhat broad. So, for example, there was this band a while back called I Fight Dragons, and they were like a nerd rock band, and all their stuff was like rock music, but with like 8-bit stuff. And all their songs had like references to video games and stuff, right? And this, on the one hand, it was kind of dope. And they had like a very specific niche. But it was like to the point where they'd niched it down to a point. It was like people could only relate on that one element. You know, it's just like video games, and like music is usually broader than that.
They painted themselves into a small corner, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. And like, when they tried to do other things, it was kind of like, well, there are other bands that do those other things better than you, so we'll go listen to like Coldplay or whatever, right? So like, when you pick the elements of your brand, I think it's important to make it like it's a difficult line to walk. Like, broad enough to be relatable to a wide enough audience for it to be you to be able to have enough clients, right? But niche enough so that those particular clients don't have so many options. Mm-hmm. Or alternatively, you can be the best in the fucking world at that, which is like, I always try to remove like quality as a thing, because it's just like it's just not realistic. Like, I don't claim to be the best dark producer in the world. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the best at the particular combination of brand things that I have put. Like, what I do, there's no one doing what I do better than what I do, because I invented it, right? Right. But you know, it's the elements of it are still relatable on a broader scale.